Oh, man. It is both types of sports for the week of July 16th. As anyone knows, that's prime time for football season, the hotbed. I am Chad Dukes. That is Gigantor to my left and to your right across the YouTube dial. Hello, Radio's Gigantor, as it says here.
Happy to be here in a room where I forgot all my bed sheets, so I'm sleeping on top of my comforter and mattress topper.
Yes, it is the first week in your new abode up in New Jersey, correct?
Oh, it is. Forgot a TV remote. Forgot the TV power cord. It's just a lot of flops around the board on the packing.
Are you gonna have to drive back down and pick all of that shit up?
Train back this weekend, Mamo, Dado, and the caravan for the rest of the stuff.
Jesus Christ. I think I'd rather never move again if I had to take a train to have my mom and dad drive me back up to New Jersey.
I'll die in this apartment. I'll die here.
I don't blame you. Hopefully it's soon. What's great when like the third day you slept without sheets, you start wondering, how did sand get into this bed? And you just realize it's the crystallized dirt of whatever's coming off your body.
And not to throw any disrespect, but one of the great stories of a Chad Duke Show realm character was Sven Lloyd never sleeping with sheets.
No, he sent us a bed, and his bed was surrounded by that is right when 7-Eleven started to deliver. So he just had taquito in big bite containers and empty Slurpee cups all around. Nobody knows who that is, Tor. This is our football show, for God's sake.
My apologies.
Oh, you're going to apologize again because you missed out on the fact that Liddell Betts is joining us on the program today. And I just taped the interview with him. And let me tell you something. You're a Falcons fan.
Falcons fan, but I do support the home team.
But you come from a family of Redskins fans, correct?
Correct.
I call them shooting stars. It's been so awful to be a Washington Redskins fan and then a Washington football team fan and then whatever they are now. That you can't look back and say, oh man, remember that run to the NFC Championship game? Like, remember when, our quarterback threw for 4,500 yards and he started in the Pro Bowl? It's literally just snippets. It's a rose in the concrete. And I think that's why like Cooley and Santana. But there's also these guys, I don't want to call them one-hitters, Tor, because it's fucking disrespectful. But a guy like Liddell Betts, it was such an amazing time to be a Redskins fan because Joe Gibbs was back. Clinton Portis had gotten injured. And all of us, I know you'll agree with me here, there were just guys that played when Gibbs was here that you said, that is a Joe Gibbs type of a player. And we all knew that Liddell Betts was an Ernest Biner, Gerald Riggs, Joe Gibbs style running back. And if he could get in there, he'd whip ass. And then but they gave up all of this shit to get Clinton Portis. He gets in there in that one season where he's able to play. And he goes for almost 1,200 yards, averaged almost 5 yards a carries, and just looked like everything we wanted him to be. It was a miraculous period of time.
Yeah, Liddell, just the man. And there's old Skins players that evoke a lot of emotion, like a Rocky McIntosh will evoke emotion from the fans. Mike Sellers, that was a big pop also.
Rock Cartwright's a big one for me.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, right in that pocket of dudes that just played their asses off, played well, and were just key contributors up and down the field. Not stars, but when the team actually felt like a team, those guys emerged.
Well, so there's something about a guy that still is out there busting his ass when the team is just dog shit. And I think that's one of the reasons why you and I had a lot of respect for a couple of teams last year. One was the New York Jets, where they had every reason in the world to just stick their butts up in the air. And they went out there and they fought and they scrapped, and you knew you were in a fight with the Jets every time you played them. I think the other one, the Colts, I had a lot of respect for the Colts and the struggles they've had with quarterback. And then Gardner Minshew went out there and they were a problem the entire season. And these guys, like Liddell Betts, is one of those guys. Like nothing good was going on with this team. That was as close as they got to finding sustained success when Gibbs was here for the second time. And they go into Tampa and they do Tampa in their building. I think it was 13-10. It was 16-13, some horrific little score. And you thought, oh my God, maybe this is sustainable, and ultimately wasn't. But that's why I got so much respect for guys like Betts that were able to find success here when it's been so tumultuous.
He's the man, and
he's the fucking man.
He's the man. That's all you can say about it. It's Liddell Betts. Who are you walking? You can't walk around Tyson's Mall and hear anybody saying a bad word about Liddell Betts. Still,
I asked him too. I was like, you got to get. It's because he played for here and then he went to the Saints, and now he's coaching running backs for Iowa, where he's the fucking man in Iowa too. Like, he led the team in rushing all 4 years he was there. He's the running backs coach now for the Hawkeyes. And if you get a chance, I know this is your realm. Tour, Hackface blowing up. Congratulations, man. I hear you guys are killing it. I saw a lot of people say they like your show more than mine. I'm happy for you. The fucking the locker rooms, the videos of the Iowa Hawkeyes locker room that they just tweeted out. I'm like, what is this? The 49? They got better digs than the Chiefs. Hand to God they do. And that's where he's doing his work right now, you know.
It's starting to become pretty well known that the college facilities have passed and lapped a lot of the NFL facilities, like the Gillette Stadium and their locker rooms. It's a dump compared to anywhere in the SEC. I don't know how it's possible. It's the NFL. It should be better, but maybe they're just making too much money to care.
Well, the Hawkeyes are set up as bad of a, and I asked him about I don't want to spoil it because it's already taped, but I asked him about NIL, and I'm like, you know, everybody always talks about one of the reasons why Phil Jackson has so much respect for is it wasn't just coaching pros, it's coaching superstar top of the game pros, and that's just a different type of animal than trying to teach kids the pick and pop and the pick and roll and how to play defense and set screens and shit like that. And in college now, one of the reasons why people like going back to college is you weren't coaching millionaires, you know, guys that could say fuck you, someone else will pay me if you know what was it who's the best player at defense? Micah Parsons. He's in Dallas, and fucking Mike Zimmer is the defensive coordinator, and he's basically saying, I like to do the shit the way that I want to do shit. It's like, that's Mike Zimmer. But, you know, who's more valuable to the Dallas Cowboys? And so if you go back to college, you're supposed to be able to not have to deal with that, and that just ain't the case anymore. But he had some interesting perspective on how, you know, we were talking about Iowa before the show, and because you're a college football guy, so we're speaking about it, and they're not, you know, they're in the same conference as Ohio State and Michigan, but they're not Ohio State and Michigan. They're not these teams that are going to go out there and spend a truckload on NIL. So I was kind of surprised. He was saying it hasn't affected what he does all that much because it really is only the upper echelon of schools that has to deal with all that transfer portal, all that NIL money type of shenanigans, at least at this point.
Yeah, outside of the top 20, the parity is actually starting to level out in a pretty nice way with guys that, because you're not hoarding athletes anymore on your team. Guys are saying, I have a chance to go play somewhere else. I'll go be an impact player, not on this team. I'm not going to ride I'm just not going to ride the bench for 3 years and then hope to get in senior year. There's no more, the stockpiling eras are over. So the parity will start, I think, continue and even out. Maybe we do get a good product, but the decision makers want to take that away as badly as possible.
He called on the Redskins about 100 times too. I was so excited. He was like nervous about it. I'm like, don't be nervous about calling the Washington Redskins when you're Liddell Betts. Don't you be nervous.
Your grandfather did.
I love him so much. That will be coming up in just a few. Tor's already intensely jealous. Corey Rita, amen to hell being a Skins fan. $9.99 super chat. Thank you so much for the support, Corey, as always. Maybe this is your year. Dan Quinn's been known to lead teams to championships on a regular basis. Cliff Kingsbury, championship blood coursing to his veins as well. I'm sure it's going to be fine with a rookie quarterback and a suspect offensive line. But thank you so much for the super chat and membership photos. Yes, if you are listening to this on podcast, we're probably going to be streaming these lives on YouTube beforehand. So if you'd like to watch live, go to youtube.com/Chad Duke Show. If you want to become a member, we'll throw all these videos in for members to watch afterwards as well. So just loads and loads of content if you want to check that out as well. Corey, thank you so much for always being the only super chats we get. Do you want to start, or is it my week to start? I forget sometimes.
I believe this week is your week.
Then I will start, my friend. Aaron Rodgers says he can't wait to play again with Davante Adams. Running back Breece Hall added, "We're always scheming." I don't think this is a Freudian slip, Gigantor. Now, keep in mind, Davante Adams left playing with Aaron Rodgers to go play with Derek Carr, who he was familiar with in college, of course. And Davante Adams is going to be successful with any quarterback that he's with. But this is very interesting because if you watch that receiver program, which I didn't watch all of it, but Davante Adams has some pretty bombastic things about not maybe being the happiest camper as he is there in Oakland. And I don't blame him at all. I think he went there to play with Derek Carr, and he ended up playing with Jimmy Garoppolo and Aiden O'Connell, with Gardner Minshew coming down the fucking line right now after the coach got fired. This would have to mean they would pull off a trade at some point this season, and then you would have Garrett Anderson and Devontae Adams on the field at the same time for Aaron Rodgers, with Breece Hall in the backfield. Did I say Garrett Anderson?
Garrett Wilson.
Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. I'm basking in the Betts glow. Betts glow. By the way, I assume that Devontae would be the one in that scenario. But if you walk those three guys out there, along with the fact that Morgan Moses and all those offensive linemen that they brought in there, and you're keeping Aaron Rodgers upright, Jesus Christ, it's easy to fantasy book that having some success.
Would this possibly be tampering? Because it feels like we're leading up to a pre-trade deadline trade right before it closes in season. I can very much see it, Vegas being 2-4, season's done for. Devontae Adams coming off like a one catch 14-yard game where he got targeted 3 times. It says, I'm out. Come pick me up, New York. And then are we going to have to walk it back to mid-July to see the tweets and the conversations? We're always scheming. And then what happens? I mean, I just don't. The tampering in the NFL seems pretty wishy-washy. What's conversational? What's actual tampering? But right now, that's how I'm fantasy booking it, as in-season trade Devontae to New York.
So they brought Mike Williams in the offseason, and when that guy's able to play, he's incredibly impactful. But over the past couple of seasons, I don't really know how you can expect for him to be healthy for 16, 17 games out of the year. And through his first 3 games last year, Devontae Adams only had 322 yards receiving. He then failed to reach 80 yards for 6 straight weeks afterwards. And I say only as in that's a respectable fucking number, but in week 3 he had 172 yards. So there was a streak of him not getting the targets that he is used to, and that's because there's inconsistency at the quarterback position there. I guess I don't mind them chumming the water a little bit here any more than I mind Brandon Aiyuk chumming the waters with the Commanders, just because because it doesn't really affect the bottom line. It doesn't really affect the way these teams are going to go out business. As much as these players want to believe they have power, they only have power in certain situations, right? They have power when they can physically force your hand. They can hold out. They can not show up for mini camps. Aaron Rodgers can't force this trade, but he got his offensive coordinator hired. He got a bunch of old-ass wide receivers brought in there. He does have some pimp hand, and if he is publicly making it known that he expects to play with Devontae Adams again, I think that's, maybe that's not something he has said in private to Jets upper management, but now they know. It's on the record.
It's just he is taking all the liberties of a veteran quarterback with 1 Super Bowl under his belt. And I know
3 MVPs,
3 times MVP, very good, but I mean, it's just so drama filled with him. And go ahead, take the liberties. No one says you shouldn't. I'm certain if either of us were in that situation in the NFL, saying I'm 40, I got maximum 3 more years in the NFL, I want to win, I'd like to get a Super Bowl with another team and stick it to Green Bay. So I understand where it's coming from, but I need more consistency from him before he actually starts being big shot caller running the Jets.
Also, you need to be above 500 when you get towards the trade deadline, and you need the Raiders to comply with what we all think their season is going to look like, despite how high they must be on the way Antonio Pierce closed out his last season. So there's a lot of hurdles to jump, but here's to calling your shot. If that trade does go down and we see that happen at some point, they're already going to have the chemistry. He's already going to know the offense. There's a lot to like about potentially. Will he be 31 this season, during the season? I forget. Devontae Adams is not a young man any longer, but I don't think any of the regression in his statistical output that we've seen as far as anything to do with his skills deteriorating.
He's 31 right now. He will turn 32 on Christmas Eve.
So he'll be properly motivated to have an impactful season, if that is the case.
I would agree. And if we're talking about wide receivers and their motivations, Brandon Aiyuk in the 49ers, he has expressed it pretty clearly now after officially requesting a trade today. Negotiations with the team appear to be stalled, per Mike Garofalo, who reported the 49ers, quote, haven't been willing to engage in negotiations since May. And Aiyuk, we have seen the steps that he has started to take to try to get the attention of the front office and try to get a new extension this offseason, whether it be tagging teams on social media, it's saying here's what I would like to do, and now official trade requests. The official trade request has gotten, I feel like it's lost a little bit of its weight. After I saw T. Higgins do an official trade request, and now he's going to be signed on and playing with the Bengals this year. So the domino didn't fall this offseason. I don't think it will with Brandon Aiyuk personally, but it's at least the official documentation of a trade request coming out of his camp.
I think this is what we talked about last week's episode tour with when it comes to Tua, is that Tua and Brandon Aiyuk and others, they're looking at what other teams are doing and think that is somehow a stimulus for their team. And the Cincinnati Bengals don't play ball when it comes to shit like this. All right. You can request all the trades you want. You can not show up. They're going to wait, and then you're going to show up. And that's the way that it goes. The 49ers are the same way. George Kittle, I forgot who George Kittle was on. He was on one of all of these podcasts. I think he was on Ryan Clark's podcast. And he said this is the way the 49ers do business, that it happened with him. Nick Bosa held out for multiple weeks before getting a long-term deal. And we all knew they wanted to keep Nick Bosa. Now, the argument would be, are they as willing and motivated to pay Brandon Aiyuk as they are Nick Bosa? Probably not. But Brandon Aiyuk is looking at all these other, Amon-Ra St. Brown in Detroit really has nothing to do with the way the 49ers conduct their business. And Justin Jefferson, to go along with him, Calvin Ridley, whoever you want to compare him to. I know it's got to be frustrating, and I know just sitting on your ass and waiting is not anything a guy that's reached this level of athleticism is going to want to do. But there's only so much writhing around you're going to be able to accomplish because the team has all the cards at this point. You're getting paid $14.1 million next year. They really don't have a lot of motivation to go out and get this deal done simply because you and Jaden Daniels got on a Zoom call together.
Players wisening up to wanting guarantees and knowing that they can get shafted at any moment for an injury or a down year for a lot of money, I think has changed a lot of the dynamic between player and front office, where it's not just, hey, here's this, but injury history. No, I'm going to hold out. I think they're approaching it a bit more aggressively with more, they want the security. I want the job security, because if I roll my ankle, I won't have the job security next year. I won't be able to get a big mega contract next year, and I'll start floating down that path of an injury-prone wide receiver that can never get that big deal again. So him wanting to do the big extension now, I understand, but the 49ers are just so stubborn in that front office. I think it's going to be a battle that continues throughout training camp.
Then how do you explain Jalen Brunson? I mean, how do you explain there's players out there that are willing to forego, what is that, $100 million? Because there's guys that are wired that way, man. I mean, you say what you want about Tom Brady. He was wired that way his whole career until the very end. I think it's easier when you've gotten one bag already. And I guess Brady, but Aiyuk would argue that he has not. But I do think that there are athletes out there that realize I'm going to have enough money to live the rest of my life in a reasonably comfortable manner. Is my life going to change all of that much if it sacrifices if Brandon Aiyuk wants to go to Washington over San Francisco, he can't value winning Super Bowls. He just fucking can't. And I know it's easy for me to say because that's a bunch of money, and I never fault guys for wanting to get a bunch of money, but it just depends on where your priorities are. And his priorities 100% are focused on getting paid. And I think a lot of people would argue that's the way to be.
The perspective also from coming from a really good team and then doing all this, it's like, okay, so Aiyuk is definitely money driven and not win Super Bowl driven. And not every guy in the NFL is Super Bowl driven. I think the more that people watch football, they can understand it. And the more that they track it and follow it, they start to take that veil down. It's like, okay, some guys really do just come in for the check, and they don't care about the Super Bowl. It's a really good living, and that's how they want to keep it.
It does make me respect the Terry McLaurins of the world that much more, where this isn't going to happen. Like, I don't fault these guys for fucking getting their money. Like, I don't fault. No, you're thinking winning isn't going to happen. He got a nice big extension. Now, part of that's the team realizing we can't let this get, we have nothing else. We have to fucking get this guy done. The fans will set fire to the stadium like they did down at the Hard Rock for the fucking soccer game.
What kind of scene was that? Holy hell.
Can we get out of international soccer, please? Can we understand? I know, and this is one of those days to where I had a great show with Dick Smokehan and Ant-Man earlier, but I wish you were there. My point is, we don't understand the passions of the international soccer community. It is completely different. There is no blood feud between Missouri and Wisconsin.
No.
Right?
Right.
So when the Chiefs play the Packers, it's not hundreds and thousands of years of age. No one's throwing petrol bombs. No one's throwing darts. You see fucking fans sneaking into HVAC to get into the stadium. No one's ever fucking done it. For
Copa America. It's not the World Cup. It's Copa, which I don't know how big of a tournament it is. It's always kind of just been a slight blip on my radar.
It doesn't matter. It's Colombia and Argentina. I mean, they don't just soccer to them means more than the Paul Bunyan Bowl. What is Minnesota and fucking Michigan? I don't even know. The little brown jug. Whatever bullshit. Whatever you guys talk about over there on Hacksack. Fucking. That's as passionate as football as we get. Is collegiate football in America, right?
Oh, that's our mailbag segment.
Hacks.
Hacks.
You can go ahead and use that, man, free charge. I don't even want any royalties for that. All right, let's go check out the hack sack real quick. But you know what I mean? Would you say that in our country, collegiate football is as close as we get to religion for people?
I'd say so. Yeah, in the SEC. And that's because it's close quarters. The U.S., for the NFL, it's too expansive. Everyone's still too far away from each other.
And we're a very young country still. And these sports are very young, and soccer is not. And when Ireland plays England in soccer, that means something different, than it does when the Oregon State plays Oregon. Whatever the fuck that it is. All right. How do we get there?
We were still on Aiyuk somehow. But
all right, well, let's move on. Let's move on from Aiyuk. Shedeur Sanders shoots down social media posts. I was watching a very funny video with Deion Sanders, and it is crazy to me. Deion's character arc throughout his career is wild. Like it looks like one of those fucking readings you get right after the earthquake hits. It's ups and downs. Deion Sanders made, I think the direct quote is, "It's going to be an Eli Manning," when he talked about Shedeur Sanders and not Travis Henry, famed running back for the Buffalo Bills back when they had all the crazy blue stripes on their uniforms, but Travis Hunter, who could go both ways. He didn't want them playing for certain teams, and he made some rather interesting intonations as to why he didn't want that. But now he's done an interview where he's like, "I never said it. There's no list of teams," and blah, 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 blah. It's like, all right, well, maybe you didn't say, "Here are the 6 teams I don't want these kids playing for," but you said it's going to be an Eli Manning.
Yeah. So we're choosing where we're going, or we're going to put up a fight to do it.
Yeah. So that's been shot down by Shedeur Sanders, who asked, there was a post claiming that there's a list of 6 teams, and he asked a simple question: "When did I say this?" Well, I'm sure he didn't say that publicly, but Deion is out there basically letting us know that this is the mindset going into the draft. And correct me if I'm wrong, he's still right now the odds-on favorite to be the first overall pick.
Yeah,
when he's eligible.
Him and Carson Beck are the 1-2 that are dueling right now. It might be leaning Carson Beck, quarterback for Georgia. He's just tall, big arm, SEC quarterback. He's got a lot of the traits, but Shedeur Sanders, I mean, last year coming on the scene, got a lot of people excited.
You know me. I don't have a problem. I don't like the draft. I love the draft as a fan. I hate the draft as an American. I think it's shitty. I think it's shitty for these kids. I think that Shedeur Sanders should be able to go to all 32 teams and say, "Okay, I'm available for work now. What is my wage and compensation going to be?" I don't necessarily even have a problem with Caleb Williams' dad saying this crazy shit about ownership stakes and teams and all that, because you got to push the envelope. If you don't, you're just going to continue to get sent to the Carolina Panthers. Your career will be ruined. You'll get one contract and it'll be over with. So in theory, I don't mind this stuff because I don't think there should be an NFL draft. But for Deion to say, "This is bullshit and a lie always goes further than the truth." He always has an amazing sound bites. Like, come on, man. You're the one that came out and said all this stuff and stoked this fire, and now the kid's having to answer the questions. It's why I hate when the parents speak for the kid, even if it's the head coach, because then it's the kid that's going to have to answer the questions afterwards.
I think even showing that the maturity for Shedeur to say, "Hey, I didn't say that," and giving the at least impression that, hey, if you're in the top 3, I'm having conversations with you. I'm open to it. What my dad's saying isn't me, even though I think everybody knows that Deion's going to have his hands all over the decision. And how could he not? He's uber plugged in the NFL. He's Deion Sanders. He's everywhere in football. So even though we don't need, I don't need Shedeur Sanders to explicitly say that his dad is helping him out. I just like that he's saying, all right, I'm going to be my own guy here. Say, when did I say that? Let's just keep playing football. If you're interested in me, let's get something. Let's start talking. All right. And not, hey, I'm not going to play for you outright right now before I've even played this season of college football.
It's going to be interesting, too, if Colorado goes out there and pisses down the side of their leg again and has a 4-win season. It's like, well, what type of leverage are you actually trying to swing around? And it'll depend on what type of a season that's had at that point at the conversation stage. You can say this crazy shit when you come from a position of power, when everyone's going to want to draft you. But if there's an injury or there's even more regression, it's like, well, then all this was all for naught. But in theory, it's a weird spot to be in, because I don't think if I was a dad, Tor, or a mom or a wife or a girlfriend, that's why Pat Mahomes' wife, I just don't understand. I don't want to do anything that makes your job. The reason why you have all of this fame is that Pat Mahomes is able to go out there and be the best quarterback in football. Nobody's interested in Brittany Mahomes if Pat Mahomes isn't who he is. Right. So don't do anything to take away from his ability to do that. And all this crazy shit that all these family members and girlfriends and parents do. RG3's dad out there running real wheel routes with him on the sidelines and fucking answering questions. It's like, just don't make things more difficult for the meal ticket. That's always been my policy.
And it's also making it about yourself. That's a hard pill to swallow, I think, as a parent with a very famous athlete.
Deion making it about himself? The hell you say? It's never happened, not once, and I will not sit here and have you malign him.
There should be yeah.
Very good.
On a more somber note, Jacoby Jones, former Ravens wide receiver, Super Bowl
bummer, man.
Star, dies at 40. The initial report from his family said he died peacefully at his home in New Orleans. Jacoby, 40 is a bummer. It's a bummer because I'm starting to get to the point now, and I'm not trying to make it about me, but I'm seeing guys that I've watched, their whole careers. Sure. And then when that happens, it does make more of an impression than if, like, Dwight Clark, a legend, but somebody that came greatly before my time, passed away. Like, I understand the legacy, but this was like, oh, I remember seeing Jacoby Jones on the Texans torching teams, and now no more. So it's a bummer. I didn't hear many bad reports about him ever. Just kind of a really good kick returner, fun wide receiver. Just had a great return in the Super Bowl. They had to shut the lights off because I guess it was getting too close to a blowout. It was a bummer to see that he passed, but a very fun player, and I think a very good man.
It's a tragedy, and I guess he had just been named a head coach of a Arena League team back in April. So it could completely, it's not like he was having some long-standing battle with illness. He was still working. It's awful because like you say, Tor, it's a strange time in your life when athletes that you've watched and remember, it's like, oh, I was a kid when I watched that guy catch a pass in the Super Bowl, and now he's fucking dead. There's a guy, I don't think you know who who Justin Skaggs is?
Oh, I don't believe
so. The Washington Redskins had a bunch of, this is going to sound disparaging, I don't mean it, scrawny white wide receivers over the years, and they would run just guys that never got to like Wes Welker territory or Tim Dwight or guys like that. They're kind of practice squad guys, and you'd watch them, and you'd have Justin Skaggs was always around the Skins, and I believe he died of brain tumors at a very early age. And I just remember being devastated about it. I'd never watched him play, but I had taken a personal interest, and I always used to pull for the practice squad guys and the guys that went out there and played well in the preseason and still got cut for some reason. Like it's Marco Mitchell syndrome if you're a Washington Redskins fan. And You always are like, this is the year Marco Mitchell's going to go out there and he's going to catch 8 jump balls in the corner. And so when it's players that you have a personal connection with and they pass, especially when it's a guy like this, it wasn't just he played football. It's in giant moments. He's the one coming up with big plays to get his team to the Super Bowl. It certainly hits differently. The one thing that kind of assuages your depression is all of the guys that came out. It's Ray Lewis, it's J.J. Watt, it's Anquan Bolden that are just come out and they can't say enough nice things about playing with him. And you realize, wow, what an impact he had, during his time here.
Yeah, Torrey Smith even. Yeah, nice. Yeah, it's just terrible. Just terrible to see that. And if we're doing an NFL show, at times it does have to, there's not fun stories
especially this time of the year. Unfortunately, there's always stuff that maybe I think it should be mentioned, but you're right. We try to just do a wacky fucking wild show and sucks on ice, as I think everybody would know. All right, completely in another direction. 8 teams had rookies report to training camp Gigantor today. Were you aware of that?
I saw that there was some buzz that teams were getting close to the training camp. I didn't know that it was right now.
Bills, Chiefs, Chargers, Dolphins, Saints, Giants, and 49ers. Where do you think the most drama will be with rookies reporting?
Oh, I think it would have to be Chicago.
Chicago. Yeah. Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams still have not signed as far as I know. Also, there's uncertainty around Caleb Williams' contract because he has not hired an NFL Players Association certified agent. And this is very rare, I guess, under the collective bargaining agreement. I heard a couple people talking about this earlier. I don't know how, if you're a Bears fan, one of the reasons I think that Caleb Williams was so attracted towards not just, laser rocket arm and his athleticism and the offense at USC, you're the field general. Like there was a lot, but it was also, he's different, right? Like he's a different type of cat. He's got a different energy. And that was viewed as a positive, I think, for the most part up until this point. We had fun with the pink nail polish thing and all that crap, but none of it really felt like it was going to hurt his chances to go in there and be anointed in Chicago. But he's a weird dude. And the way that he's kind of built his infrastructure, including one of those dads that we were talking about that seems to be heavily involved, is weird. And it's not the way it's normally done. And so when you are now getting towards the rookies are at training camp, this deal still isn't done, and he's not a cornerback. He's not a defensive tackle. Go to the Al Pacino speech from Any Given Sunday. He's the goddamn quarterback. It's always going to be more disconcerting, at bare minimum, for fans of that team. I wonder when people should actually start to become concerned, if they're not already.
The Bears decided to draft a guy that is choosing to be unique and different and outspoken and a little bit weird. And with that, if he's a supreme quarterback that can really march down the field and take over the league, that's something that you give up 10 times out of 10, and then we would know in 2 to 3 years, really. But right now, these are true growing pains when you're dealing with a guy that doesn't have real on-field risks, but the off-the-field extracurriculars start piling up before we can actually see him, and then we're kind of also in channel fever, waiting to see him in week 1. It's a bad time to kind of be ready to see it. You just have to be patient. They're going to lock him down. The Bears are going to obviously bend the knee because it's Caleb Williams. We're going to have to get something done. If I'm Chicago, he has to be on the field week 1. You can't roll out there with Bajent. You can't roll out there with anybody else but Caleb Williams. So this is all this hardballing from his camp, and it's hardballing, and it feels overly dramatic for what the Bears want to achieve, which is wins quickly and a complete turnaround. But I think it'll be resolved maybe during first week of camp.
Okay, but on top of that, it should be mentioned, if people want to act like this is gaslighting or you're just looking for clicks and hot takes when it's a very slow time of the year. He said to a reporter from the Chicago Tribune when asked about this, quote, "I'm not handling that. My lawyers and attorney and everybody, the head of the Bears, everybody up there up top is handling that. That's not my position I'm handling." but you don't have an agent that's certified by your union to handle this. So I would suppose that means that he is the guy that's supposed to be speaking to the Bears about his contract situation, because you don't hire a lawyer to do it. You hire an agent. And I think that the issue here is also, if this was going along with JJ McCarthy or Jaden Daniels, he's been an odd duck up until this point. And to continue to be an odd duck and then say, I've got nothing to do with why I haven't been signed. If I was a fan of the Bears, I would be nervous.
I would not believe that also, because you do have something to do with it. If you had the NFLPA agent, you'd probably be signed. Maybe it's for less money. Maybe it's for more. I don't know if they negotiate better or worse typically, but hey, I'm not involved with this. It's all the people upstairs. That is a comfortable and convenient stance to take when you are supposed to be the savior of a franchise. But maybe it's a smart take to have.
I would also say, Tor, that it's not a big deal, except he's a rookie, and this is special time allotted to rookies to get in there and get your feet wet and get up to speed. And this is not just a rookie. It's a rookie that people think can take the Bears to the postseason this year in his rookie year. Adunze signed his contract with the Bears today. Oh, thank you, Travis Litch. I did not see that, so I appreciate the heads up. Well, that's great news. It's great news for him. That means that's one box checked, but the quarterback is always going to be the bigger story.
Quarterbacks continue to be the story in Cleveland. I didn't know if you saw this, Shude, but Wyatt Teller, right guard for the Cleveland Browns, did an interview with Tyler Dunny of Go Long.
He should have been a sheriff of an old West town with that name.
And that bill.
Wyatt Teller. Yeah. What is he doing being alive in 2024? He should have been around alive in 1876. The man's out of place. Why is Wyatt Teller being asked about the quarterback of the Texans?
You should be inquiring about the saloon robbery.
Yeah, exactly. I need to know where Louis Chamus is. I got to take him in for the $5,000 bounty on his head.
On the topic of Deshaun Watson, Teller stated, I would love to say he has glimpses of Patty Mahomes. Patty Mahomes is a once-in-a-lifetime guy. I mean, he's insane, and he has great outlets. He has great receivers, great defense. He has all these different things around him to make him better, but he is the truth. I believe that Deshaun has that. I truly do. I've seen glimpses of it. Putting a whole game together, it's tough.
Yeah, you've only seen glimpses, that's for sure.
We know putting a whole game together is tough, but you paid him $255 million.
Right.
That's, I guess, an interjection in the quote by me, but back to Teller's point, putting a whole season together, putting a whole stretch together, it's fucking hard, man. I couldn't imagine taking 2 years off of football and expecting to play at the same level as playing at 2020, 2021. So he's the helm of my team. I pray that he has an unbelievable season, honestly plays out of his mind, not to win a Super Bowl, but just for himself. I truly believe he's a great leader. It's a nice quote to have from an offensive lineman talking about your quarterback, I'd say.
It is. I would not invoke the name of Patrick Mahomes if I was talking about my quarterback. I don't want to be on the record. First of all, this is going to sound stupid. I don't want to be on the record admitting there's better quarterbacks in the league. I think it was Deshaun Watson that came out and said Amari Cooper was the best wide receiver in the league, wasn't it? Like, I like that shit.
Yeah.
I like when a player's got another player's back, and even if it sounds ridiculous, but I wouldn't compare him to Pat Mahomes. I don't know, man. I think that everything he's saying is true. Like, regardless of whether or not you think Deshaun Watson is a good person or even deserves to be playing football, has any other player, I mean, maybe Mike Vick, with what Mike Vick went to federal prison and then came back out and was able to play football again. So
yeah,
you want to talk about a tumultuous speed bump in your career, that's probably the top one. But all of this stuff and then having an entire season off, there's probably a really good reason why he looked amazing before all this and he looks like shit now. And it's probably not because he forgot how to play quarterback. The problem that I have I don't mean to bloviate. He got that giant fucking bag of money and hasn't played well since. And that we have seen that time and time again in every walk of life. There are guys that look at Conor McGregor. I mean, we've been told Conor McGregor is going to get back into a cage for years and years and years, and he just doesn't, because he's got way too much money and he's got a Lamborghini yacht. And why would you ever want to go in and get punched in the side of the head again? It's right. I mean, I hate to boil it down to something so simplistic, but it's difficult for me not to think about that when I think about why Deshaun Watson isn't a very good quarterback anymore.
It also, all the the news is just what I'll call it, that surrounded Deshaun Watson over the last couple years, I think it just is taking him completely out of the zone of playing football. Whatever zone he was in early in Houston, dynamic, effective, exciting. And since it's been, he looks old, he looks slow, he doesn't look he looks weak on the field. And this is Deshaun Watson, NFL quarterback. They wouldn't trot him out if they didn't think that he could go out and play. But he looks like a completely different player. I don't know. I don't know how long we're going to let this experiment run in Cleveland. It has to be a really good year for him.
I mean, do you think he looks way faster and more accurate and more competent in practice? I mean, they are trotting him out there, even though he doesn't look that good. And they got rid of Joe Flacco, who looked really good in their offense and made guys in their offense. David Njoku comes to mind, who you're saying, like, why the hell isn't this guy catching 10 balls a game? Oh, he is with Joe Flacco out there. I don't know, man. I think when you give a guy that much guaranteed, and that's why the guaranteed money card that's being played left and right. I know we look at baseball, we look at other sports, and they do it. I don't love it. I just don't love it because you want guys to keep hungry. You want incentives. You want them to continue to strive. And there's just going to be dudes out there that would get a giant pile of money. I don't feel like getting up an hour early to look at film. I don't feel like, getting in that cold tub for an extra 30 minutes because I had a really long workout. I don't know, man. That's just human nature. That's not even a shot against him. That's most people walking the earth feel that way.
How many wins would the Browns have this year if Tannehill started all 17 games?
Ryan Tannehill,
yes.
Boy. With all those weapons that they have.
Yep.
Is Chubb playing? Are we saying that Nick Chubb is playing?
I saw Chubb squatting 585 pounds.
I saw that too. By the way, that wasn't the only Chubb that I saw when that video came out. Holy shit.
I accidentally swiped up on that video. I didn't even know how
Do you ever feel like you fucking do you ever just feel like you shouldn't be alive? Like whenever I see some of these videos like that, where I'm like, well, if that's what a human being is capable of, then what the fuck am I doing? What if I wasted my 45 years on this planet?
And he's using that crazy bendy bar with huge. It's just like, okay, you are one of the best running backs in the league, and this is why. Coming off of a crazy injury, getting back in it, I think he plays. I think he's back this year.
Adam in his top 10 back still on his list, and everybody on the show gave him a bunch of shit. And I was like, if Nick Chubb can walk onto a football field, he's on my top 10 list of running backs in the NFL.
I think he is an old school running back where he doesn't wear gloves. He doesn't have swag on when he plays the game. He is just Nick Chubb running back.
What does that mean, swag? Tell me what that means.
Like he doesn't have the behind the arm tape. He does not a bunch of wristbands. He's not wearing a hoodie under his jersey.
Okay.
He's not cropping. Yeah, he's not doing anything that looks
the opposite cool. of DK Metcalf is what you're saying.
Yes. the complete inverse. Yeah.
All right. So we're saying Ryan Tannehill with Chubb, Cooper, Jerry Jeudy. They brought in Elijah Moore, David Njoku. Line actually plays pretty well for that team. They got some killers on defense. Maybe the best player of the league on defense in Myles Garrett. I'd say that's a 10-win team.
I think 10 is the floor for that team. And yeah. I think 10 should be I think 9 should be the floor with the Deshaun Watson led team. It should, because the all other 10 players on offense are good. And the defense is 11 for 11.
If Jacoby Brissett is the quarterback of that team, they should be able to win 9 games. I mean, no disrespect to him. Like you just have to competently play quarterback. Flacco, I mean, for as many plays as Flacco made, you remember he was puking the ball up all over the field as well. Yeah. He loves doing that. He loves spraying and praying.
You don't have to lose.
Dude, if you have Brock Purdy, if you just took Brock Purdy off the 49ers, everybody's shitting all over him because his team's too good. And then you put him on the Browns. I think they're 11-win team, 12-win team last year.
I think so also. It's a good team. And I think if you have a really competent quarterback, you don't need your right guard comparing him to the best quarterback in the league. It's, hey, this is my quarterback. We're really excited and ready for the season. I see Patrick Mahomes in him.
I pull a fucking Lieutenant Dangle from The Departed, keep him in the dark, feed him bullshit. I come out and say, hey, Deshaun looks great. We're all practicing. We're coming together. He's going to hit his stride for us. We're going to be there for him to support him. All the shit that they all say that means nothing. That's all I do. All I do if I got a microphone in my face like that. I'm not giving them a fucking inch to go out there and clickbait my ass and let 2 dickheads with 15 people watching them like us fucking talk about that on the internet.
Yeah, if Cleveland misses the playoffs, it'll be a cold, cold winter.
I don't know did you see the final 10 games of the season for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Let me check this out.
Pull that up. We got, I'm sorry, we're losing my mind here, but I do enjoy speaking with football with young Gigantor, radio's Gigantor, as he's known in some circles. And if you didn't hear, Liddell Betts is going to join the program next. Former running back for the Washington Redskins and the New Orleans Saints, went for a badass season under Coach Joe Gibbs. Now he coaches running backs for the Iowa Hawkeyes. They know a thing or three about running the football. You looking at it? Go down the last. So go through the last 10 weeks of the season for the Steelers.
Gotcha. I have. I think we should start at November 17th here.
They fucked them so hard. Their whole divisional slate, from what I recall, is in the back half of the season.
Yeah, it starts. Steelers host the Ravens, and then Steelers go to the Browns.
That's a fun week, by the way. That's a fun week turnaround. And one of those is on a short week, too. They got one of these games. They got like the Browns on the road on a short week on a Thursday in the cold.
I think that Ravens-Steelers game is on Sunday, and then 4 days later, they're going to Cleveland at Cleveland Thursday Night Football.
I mean, there's not enough ice baths on Earth to go back-to-back like that on a short week.
Then they go to Cincinnati.
That's fun.
Late December Cincinnati game. I'm sure.
Go play Joe Burrow in front of those psychopaths.
The next week they host Cleveland in Pittsburgh.
So they get a week off by hosting the Browns. Holy shit.
December 15th, they travel to Philly to play the Eagles.
Oh, well, luckily that'll be in the Eagles' pre-scheduled late season swoon at that point. So we'll be fine.
They could be falling apart at the season.
Is there any chance Russell Wilson is playing when they go up to Philadelphia? Is there any chance?
No, bad odds on that.
See, here's the problem they're going to have with that is that the guys in the locker room know. And if Russell Wilson's out there looking like some straight fucking there's no way you're going to be able to tell them that Justin Fields isn't the better option, because at least he can keep the ball alive.
I think that we'd see internal leaks far before December 15th.
If Russell Wilson rips it for the Steelers, that's going to be such a fun story this season. It'll be way better than if he plays the way I expect him to play. But
I agree 100%.
All right, keep going. So Philly after all those divisional games.
Yep, and then after Philly, they have to travel to Baltimore to play the Ravens.
This is unbelievable. This is a public execution. Remember John Malkovich and Burnett? This is a crucifixion. That's what they're doing to the Steelers. Keep going.
Fucker.
I know who you are. What a great movie. Please watch Burn After Reading if you haven't already.
After they travel to Baltimore, they have to host the Kansas City Chiefs.
That's Super Bowl champions.
And then their final game of the season, they host the Cincinnati Bengals.
There you go. So Bengals twice, Ravens twice, Browns twice, Eagles, Chiefs.
That's hideous.
Who did Mike Tomlin piss off?
That's a bad stretch.
That is rough, Jack. They better start off 6-0.
They need it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they split. Pittsburgh, they're too good to I think get swept by every team in the division. So I think they get some splits in that final 8 weeks, but that is a murderer's row.
And they also seem to they get teams when like someone's injured, and they get teams off a flat week on a quick turnaround on like short week of rest. But I don't know how you can look at that, what you just read, and say that's anything but a dirty dicking, and somebody is trying to get revenge on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Somebody sent a fucking memo to the league and said Mike Tomlin's streak of winning seasons ends this year, and you better make sure that it happens. And I wonder why that would take place.
I don't think I really enjoy seeing all the divisional games packed in at the end of the year like that.
I hate it.
I know it's going to make good TV and it'll make really good football, but that it almost feels like like the first half of the season is, discounted because we're just playing non-conference.
Devil's advocate. It's the it's the AFC North, and those teams play the shit out of each other, and they beat the piss out of each other, and it's hard-nosed football, and it's outside, and they play defense, and they got big names. That's just better. That's better when it's cold and when it's, getting towards the playoffs, and it's better for us as fans, I would say.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I don't want to see any NFC South mixings in the back half of the season. I'd rather get that out in the first half.
Well, yeah, you really just want to get the Panthers and the Saints out of the way, because God forbid you see them in late November. You ain't coming out of that alive.
No, they will, take advantage of our
you thought it was Rebel Moon, the scar giver. Oh, no. It's the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons. They're the scar givers when that cold weather rolls around and they're in their air-conditioned domes. Oh, give me back the words I love, oh Lord. Corey Rita, this is ridiculous for a both types of sports. $49.99 super chat. Steamed for LB. You should be, brother. I can tell you right now, he rules. Liddell Betts joins us, presented by Corey Rita on both types of sports. And end stream.